You're listening to the 49 Carats Podcast, a 49ers Goldmine production with Stephanie Sanchez.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the 49 Carats Podcast. I'm your host, Steph. It is Wednesday, April 10th. Another wacky Wednesday coming for you with my Wednesday co-host, Coach Dezi. Dezi, how you doing today?
I'm good. I'm really good. But how are you, Steph?
I'd say I am better than most days. I know what you're insinuating there, and it's because I am an engaged woman, and
whoop, whoop. Hey!
I proposed to my girlfriend of 8 years last Thursday. Yeah, 8 years. It's almost crazy it hadn't happened yet. So it was a long time coming. I've heard many hints in the past 8 years of how it should go down, or all this stuff. So yeah, I did it, and then we went to a great trip to Puerto Vallarta in Mexico for the weekend, and it was great to just celebrate it for a couple days. And yeah, now we got to get into the wedding planning of it all, so that'll be chaotic, but I'm excited. I'm happy. So thank you, Dezi.
Absolutely, congratulations. I'm kind of mad I didn't ask the question that Technics chick just asked. What's the ring 49 carats?
Not 49 carats. You know what? I actually I got the ring from this great company called True Gem Company. I liked them because the rings are sustainably sourced, and it's a moissanite actually, so not a real diamond. But if you guys are into crystals and things like that, moissanites they look very much like diamonds, and some might even say they're shinier than diamonds. So there's that as well. But appreciate it. Yeah, I've been just absolutely floored by the amount of responses I've gotten on Instagram and on Twitter when I made the announcement. So definitely feeling the love. And I appreciate it from everyone. But and everyone in the comments here, thank you guys so much. Appreciate it. But we have quite a bit to go over today on our show. The 49ers are hosting several, and by several I mean 40 plus NFL draft prospects for their local pro day today. And so me and Dezi are going to talk about some of the most intriguing players who are going to be participating. Now, when it comes to the local pro day for the 49ers, I do have to say, I feel like the Bay Area, obviously I love the Bay Area, but it's not exactly like a haven for football talent. You know what I mean? It's not like Texas where football's so serious. There's so many prospects that come out of Texas. It's not like Florida. I feel Florida's another hub, right? And so the Bay Area, not quite as big of a football hub. So when you look at the list of names, joining the 49ers for this local pro day, you often get a lot of people saying, who the hell are these people? Well, we will at least tell you what some of those players are. But I will say this, it's an opportunity for smaller school prospects because, San Jose State, even Cal maybe, not, of course, are known schools, but they're not always seen as a top school, of course. So for me, I think it's cool for some of these prospects from these schools to, get a chance to work out in front of an NFL team. And you never know what's going to happen. For example, Corey Luciano, who was an offensive lineman out of Washington last offseason, he signed with the 49ers as an undrafted free agent he participated in the 49ers local pro day last year. So again, you never know what could come out of these local pro days. So it's a cool opportunity for these prospects to get in front of an NFL team. And so instead of asking who the hell are these people, just be happy for them that, they get this chance, because I think it's pretty freaking cool for them. All right. Well, as always, I put the everything you need to know about the 49ers in relation to the draft in my draft sheet, sharing it with you guys now. The second tab, you will see local pro day invitees. These are all the players that are participating today. In fact, they're probably on the field in Santa Clara right now as we speak. And so we're going to go through some of these names. I'll just say, I know I'm talking a lot, but I just wanted to point this out. One thing that I just added, and I'm going to continue to add to the draft sheet, are draft grades. Shout out to The Athletic. Shout out Dane Brugler, who puts together the most comprehensive draft guide there is in all of football. The Beast, as it's dubbed. And so he adds those draft grades, and so I am putting those draft grades into the draft sheet. I think that helps add a little more context to these players. And so that will also guide our discussion today as to who are the more intriguing prospects that are joining the 49ers for their local pro day. So without further ado, let's just start with the first. Most of these are priority free agents. There's only one who was actually projected in their draft grade to be like a 7th round pick. But aside from that, we've got one projected 7th rounder, a couple of priority free agents, and the rest probably undrafted free agents, and things like that. But we'll go over the priority free agents and that projected 7th rounder, starting with Austin Jones out of USC. He's from Antioch, and I mean, USC, I know a lot of 49ers are fans of them, so that's cool. But Austin Jones went to Bishop O'Dowd in Oakland for high school. He also played track in high school, played 3 years at Stanford, actually, and 2 years at USC the past 2 years. And I think this is his full college career, 43 games, 17 starts, ran for 1,882 yards on 413 carries. That's a 4.6 average, 18 touchdowns. He also caught 92 passes for 798 yards. So not bad there too. He has that receiving back ability. He has 1 receiving touchdown. And he returned 4 kickoffs as well, which, the 49ers could maybe use someone who can, return some kickoffs. So that might be a plus. And this past off season, he participated in the Hula Bowl. So actually, I did ask him if he spoke with the 49ers at the Hula Bowl, and he did. So he was already part of the draft sheet as part of that. So yeah, there could be some interest there from the 49ers, and he's considered a priority free agent. Interesting.
You know what's cool about this is, like, literally this is like finding the diamond in the rough, right? Like, these guys, I just love that they have this opportunity, because so many people just want that shot. And like, you get to hang your hat on the fact that you have that, and you get in front of them, and you get to show them what you're about. And it's tough. I don't, I think I've shared here before, I'm not a big college football gal. I don't watch a lot of it. So a lot of these names I have zero, knowledge about, nor do I have knowledge about the competition. So what does those stats look like compared to the competition he was up against is always the question, right? So but nonetheless, I could care less what their stats are. I could care less about any of this, other than I love that they have the opportunity. I did look up some injuries for some of the ones that you're going to go over. Austin pretty much had a fairly clean history in terms of injury, maybe just a little hamstring tweak, but most running backs don't get out of college without having at least one hamstring, especially if he ran track. Boy, you can get those hammies a little irritated quick. So
for sure. And again, the Beast, the draft guide, the final note that they have on Austin Jones is, quote, overall, Jones has an undersized build and won't push piles, but his vision, foot quickness, and pass catching skills will help him compete for a roster spot. So, yeah, I mean, I think the 49ers are probably going to target a running back in this draft, bring someone else in for some extra competition, maybe someone with their draft picks, and maybe someone as an undrafted free agent. So Austin Jones could definitely be that for them. Let's get to the next intriguing athlete. Like, now this one's an interesting one. All right, Ron Stone, and this is Ron Stone Jr. Okay, he played out of Washington State, and after reading more about him, I think this one's one of the more intriguing ones to me. He's a San Jose native. He played in Washington his entire collegiate career. And he's a junior because his dad, Ron Stone Sr., for those of you not aware, played in the NFL as well. His dad was a 4th-round pick in the 93 draft. And he actually has 2 Super Bowls with the Cowboys, so that's pretty cool for his dad, and for Ron Stone Jr. to have kind of been around that. And so in Washington, he played in 58 games. He tallied 202 total tackles, 31 and a half tackles for loss. That's a lot. 16 sacks, 5 forced fumbles, and 8 passes defended. He was also at the Hula Bowl, so again, gave the 49ers a chance to, see a little bit more of Ron Stone. So definitely someone I have to imagine they'd probably keep an eye on, today, because, I mean, the 49ers can never have too many defensive linemen, right?
Agree. We definitely looking to beef some of those trenches up. So let's bring it.
Yeah, I love this one. Definitely wouldn't mind. Now, as far as the actual, like, is he more an inside or an outside guy? I'm not really sure. But yeah, I was trying to read up on that, but not really sure. So, but anyway, in any case, 49ers still looking for, some more talent. I guess, like, in the Beast, he is projected as a Sam backer, which not sure, is that like linebacker, Sam linebacker. Okay, here's what the Beast says. His last tidbit here says, overall, Stone is missing a distinguishing trait that will separate him on an NFL depth chart, but he has a worker bee attitude and will make it tough for a coach to cut him. So he's a guy that could definitely stick around if given the opportunity. And, maybe the 49ers give him that opportunity. Next, we have the only participant who has an actual, like, round draft grade, Chigozie Anusium. I hope I said that right. Cornerback out of Colorado State. He is projected to be a 7th-round pick. And so my notes on him, let me find them here. All right, so he's from La Habra, California. That is in SoCal, but he did play in Cal, which that's the part that gives him the eligibility for the local pro day. And so he played corner and wide receiver in high school. Also did some track and field. He spent 4 seasons at Cal before playing his final 2 seasons at Colorado State. In those final 2 seasons with Colorado State, he played 23 games, tallied 93 total tackles, 3.5 tackles for loss, an interception, 12 passes defended. In 2022, he was named PFF's first team All-Mountain West Conference, and he participated in the Shrine Bowl. So that's pretty notable, one of the more, prestigious, I guess you can say, draft bowl games that occur in the off season leading up to the draft. So good for him. Again, this is probably at least his second opportunity to get in front of a 49ers scout, right? And just show him what he has. So definitely could be a good opportunity for him. And the 49ers could use some more corners. So they're after this season, they're going to be pretty short on him, I think. So
Yeah.
He could definitely be someone they take a swing on late, I would say.
And I will say, I also looked up briefly injuries on this guy, broken hand, and I'm not sure if this is still about the broken hand or if there is something separate, but they said there was an off-season injury that also resulted in needing rehab. So just a little banged up, but nothing I think that would be really ruling him out.
That's good to know. And this is the note from the Beast on God, I already forgot his last name because it's so hard to and you see him.
And you see him.
And you see him. It is. It's definitely unique. It says overall, NUCM's lack of on-ball production is concerning, but he plays with an edge and has the height, weight, speed blend that is coveted by NFL teams. He projects as a rotational press man corner with zone experience. So definitely the more notable prospect who's going to be joining the 49ers for the local pro day. Then we have Ryan Cooper. He also projects as a priority free agent. Now, as far as Ryan Cooper goes, he played at Oregon State. He's from San Jose originally. He actually started his collegiate career at the College of San Mateo. But at Oregon State, he played 23 games, had 82 total tackles, 4.5 tackles for loss, 1.5 sacks, 4 interceptions, 4 passes defended. And he is one of the only guys who, out of this group, went to the combine. In fact, I think he is the only guy that went to the combine. So good for him. I mean, he was also at the Hula Bowl. So he's gotten a few chances now to get in front of the 49ers. And so, hey, if they like what they see, they might be keeping a close eye on him today, as he's probably one of the more notable guys who will be there today.
Yeah, I noticed the list was very extensive in secondary. They're looking at a lot of options for the secondary here.
That's definitely something to consider too. And part of the reason why I wanted to put the list in by order of position is kind of so you get an idea of, I guess, like what's most what are the 49ers wanting to bring in most, I guess. So we have a good amount of wide receivers, only 2 offensive linemen. Don't hate the 49ers. But, and then, obviously defensive linemen always gets a lot of love. Good amount of DBs between the corners and safeties. No tight ends. That's something I noticed. No tight ends. But we'll talk about that in a bit because the 49ers are actually bringing in a few players on a tryout basis. And there's a few tight ends in that group. So they're bringing them in one way or another, but not out of these prospects. So that's definitely interesting. All right. So this is what the Beast had to say on Ryan Cooper. They say overall, Cooper's lack of speed, burst, and tackling consistency are major roadblocks to overcome, but he has NFL level ball skills and awareness. Now, let's get to the next guy, Manny Johnson out of Nevada. He's from Richmond, California. And let's see here. So he went to Hercules High, and actually he was a pretty good baseball player, but he did get recruited to play football, ended up playing wide receiver and DB in high school. And he might have one of the most interesting trajectories of any of the players who is joining the 49ers today. I almost want to invite him on the podcast because I have questions, He spent in 2018 as a redshirt. 2019 and 2022, he was just a backup, reserve player. That's all. He didn't even get his first start until this past season in 2023. But what he did in 2023, 100 tackles, 3.5 tackles for loss, a forced fumble, 6 passes defended, 3 interceptions. He ended up leading the team in interceptions and tackles, and he was named first team All Mountain West Conference. that's it. Like literally had nothing to show before that 2023 season, but he kind of just like exploded when he got that opportunity. And now he's a projected priority free agent. So definitely like really interesting for Manny Johnson. That definitely to me makes him an intriguing, prospect who's going to be joining them today, because it's like, hey, I mean, for one, I want to know what happened in the years prior that you couldn't get on the field. Like, was that Nevada's fault, or what were you doing? But also, it is 2023 a blip on the radar? Is it a sign of like, hey, this guy could maybe actually be something, right? So I gotta imagine the 49ers probably asking themselves that same question as they watch him today at that local pro day.
Yeah, and none of that was because of injury. I didn't see anything when I looked it up. And I would say I'm voting yes, have him on the podcast. I need to know the answers. I love the underrated players. I love when they shine. That is just part of why I love Brock Purdy so much. It's like when you just don't think, everybody's against you and doesn't think you could do it, and you just come up and just, hit them with the right hook. It's just beautiful. Love it.
Yeah.
Definitely on the podcast.
That's definitely interesting. Like I said, I have questions. I have many questions. This is what the Beast had to say on Manny Johnson. Overall, Johnson will need to answer questions about why he was a late bloomer, but his film shows the range and post instincts of a future NFL player. So definitely, excited for his future. I almost just want to keep tabs on him, whether he ends up with the 49ers or not, just to see like
what happens.
What will happen. So all right, our final intriguing prospect for the local pro day, we've got safety Patrick McMorris out of Cal, formerly of San Diego State. He played his final season at Cal, played in 55 games, 40 starts in 4 college seasons. He racked up 252 tackles in that span, 11 tackles for loss, 6 interceptions, 23 pass breakups, 2 forced fumbles, 4 fumble recoveries. So he definitely, did not have any trouble filling the stat sheet. And this season, okay, he was the other guy that participated in the combine. So he also participated in the Hula Bowl. So we've got 2 guys who are at the 49ers local pro day who participated in the combine. That's a pretty good amount, I would say. And so Patrick McMorris also considered a priority free agent. So, another opportunity to show his chops in front of the 49ers. And let's see here what the Beast had to say about Patrick McMorris. It says, overall, McMorris lacks high-end range and needs to become a more reliable tackler, but NFL teams understandably like his play recognition and physicality. So, again, we're talking about like undrafted free agents, priority free agents, guys that you're going to take a swing on. Why not? Maybe practice squad candidates. So I think out of the guys that we've discussed today, there's definitely some options for the 49ers in this group. And, I'm sure as we get some reports from the local pro day, because, the beat writers are there, I'm sure we'll get some notes on, who has kind of stood out. There's a couple of guys that, maybe aren't considered as priority free agents, but maybe on the more high-end side of undrafted free agents that I did want to mention really quickly. Tariq Owens, all right? Tariq Owens, yes, that is Terrell Owens' son. He played at a Missouri State. He grew up in Pleasanton in the East Bay, and he's kind of had his name brought up a bit on Twitter, as I've seen in, league circles, I would imagine. He was already on the draft sheet because I think, let's see, what is his report here? So he spoke with the 49ers at his pro day at Missouri State. So there has already been some contact with him, not just this local pro day. So that's another one to keep an eye on. And then the other guy who I found intriguing, and when I posted that the 40, because he was already on the draft sheet too. Let me find him. When I posted about this, the 49ers met with him at his pro day. I got a lot of responses. Of course, a lot of 49er fans are tapped into Fresno State and are Fresno State fans, so that's part of it. But a lot of people were like, yo, like this guy's a sleeper. Like they should definitely bring him in. So when I saw that he was going to be participating in the 49ers local pro day, I was like, oh, that's great. Like, he could be a sleeper. And again, he's considered to be an undrafted free agent, but probably more on the high end. So there's still probably an opportunity for Lavelle to, get some love and, compete in camp. From Sacramento, played football and basketball at Burbank High School. Played his entire college career at Fresno State. And this past off season, leading up to the draft, he's participated in the Shrine Bowl and the Hula Bowl. So he's had some opportunities to, raise his draft stock, I should say. Thank you, Dezi. raise his draft stock. So, yeah, I mean, that's an intriguing one to me, I think, Lavelle Bailey. So just a few names to keep in mind.
Yeah, Lavelle Bailey, I did see a knee injury. There was no specifics behind that, but I don't think it was anything significant. So interesting group.
Yeah, interesting group. Mr. Sir says that boy Maxwell Anderson, the best DB out there. So yeah, I mean, I love hearing, your guys' input on and where is Maxwell? Oh, here he is. At a Weber State. Yeah, I love hearing you guys' input because, maybe you guys follow some of these players a little more tightly than we do watching college football. So, I'm open to hearing about these guys, but just wanted to talk about a few of them. There's 42 or 41 guys who are going to be participating. So plenty of guys to talk about. We'd have you here all night if we went through every single name. But there's other guys who are going to be participating in the 49ers local pro day. Some familiar names to some because they have already been in draft classes. And, for a couple of them, they've already been drafted. So Kellen Mond is probably the most notable. He is participating on a tryout basis for the 49ers. He, of course, was drafted in the 3rd round by the Minnesota Vikings in that 2021 draft class. I have to say, look, the 49ers have 3 quarterbacks already. I'm not saying they won't add another because they will probably like to keep 4 for training camp, but I don't know if Kellen Mond is really the best you can do there. I wasn't a huge fan of, Mond coming out of the draft. He's super tall, but he just, I don't know, he's just kind of stiff.
Mariah says Kellen Mond QB3.
Be serious, Mariah. Where'd she say that? Oh yeah, QB3. Be serious. No, I mean, if he's QB4 and is in camp, like whatever, right? But if we're being real, I think the 49ers are more than set for the guys who they're going to have on the 53. Then we have. This is where the 49ers brought in the tight ends with these guys they're bringing in for tryouts, right? So we got Curtis Hodges, who was originally out of Arizona State in that 2022 draft class. He was an undrafted free agent in that one. Then we got tight end Hunter Kampmoyer out of Oregon. He was an undrafted free agent in that 2021 class. And then Tommy Sweeney from Boston College in 2019. He was a 7th rounder. But all these guys are free agents right now. So the 49ers thought, well, why not bring them in? And due to the amount of players that are participating in the pro day, it makes sense that the 49ers would want 2 quarterbacks to participate because there was only one other quarterback for, all these, running backs and wide receivers. So I think it makes sense. And also, as we noted, there weren't any tight ends from this draft class maybe eligible or even invited to this local pro day. So that to me is also part of the reason why they bring in, 3 tight ends to try out, but also we know the 49ers are looking for a tight end 2, maybe even a tight end 3, Ross Dwelly replacement. I don't know, but
I think
that's
it's interesting that there's kickers and punters on this list. I don't know why my eyes went there, but like,
yeah, these are like the special. These are the special teams guys who are participating. I mean, I don't know. It's just
I'm just asking a question.
It was I guess no coincidence that they didn't have a draft grade at all. Like they weren't even listed in the Beast. But you never know. Like when it comes to those special teams positions, I feel like they don't necessarily even need to be anything or like be considered this like grand player in college to end up being able to play in the pros. Part of the reason why people were so upset about the Jake Moody pick, right? So because some people think you could just find him anywhere. But yeah, that's the local pro day. It seems like it just wrapped up, according to Matt Barrows. Here's what he had to say in his tweet. He said Kellen Mond was on hand because there was only one local quarterback. Oh, okay, so just literally what I said. And then 49ers reached out to Mond's agent. Mond jumped at the opportunity. I guess, he also drew some connections between Kellen Mond and Clint Kubiak, who was Minnesota's offensive coordinator when the Vikings drafted him. So he is familiar with the 49ers system. So we'll see. We'll see if something comes of that. And then just a couple of other cool things. Let me just share this screen really quick so you guys can see what I'm seeing. He did say that new 49ers assistant linebackers coach KJ Wright was on hand for the 49ers local pro day. He was working on drills. He said SF still hasn't added an assistant D-line coach after Darryl Tapp left for Washington. Other newcomers included Brandon Staley and Mick Lombardi, whose titles still haven't been determined. And then he said Tariq Owens, Terrell Owens' son, worked out, as well as we were talking about, Ron Stone. And there you have it. Ron Stone, defensive end, because I know he had that question earlier. He was also so did Ron Stone Sr. play with the 49ers as well? Because I didn't see that in the notes, but I'm not. I guess he did, because Matt Barrows said he was a 49ers legacy on hand. So again, Ron Stone, that one might have legs, man, because if you look at his stats and you see the connections, it could work out. So
let me see. So it says, he was with the Niners from 2002 to 2003.
Even that's what I'm saying. So that's interesting, right? That makes him all the more intriguing. So decent amount of names. Definitely, to me, this is a more intriguing list than last year's local pro day. And like I said, last year they ended up signing Corey Luciano. So, yeah. Uncle Salty asks, how do we get an updated copy of your 2024 draft sheet? It is shared heavily on my Twitter, but for those of you on YouTube watching this right now, let me just put the link in the description. For the audio listeners, I will put the link in the description of the audio version of the podcast as well. I just dropped the link on the YouTube chat, but I don't think YouTube honors the URLs, so it'll just look like text. I don't know if you can copy it, Uncle Salty, but it is there. Just added it to the description.
That's without the injury updates, or did you update that?
That's without the injury updates. Dezi has put together some great work, and I know she's mentioned it as well. Some work that she's put together of just injuries that prospects that are listed in the draft sheet have had. If you guys are interested in that, I know for a lot of people who consume this content, it's like injuries are a big deal, and sometimes they should be a big deal, right? Sometimes I think people make it a bigger deal than it needs to be. Sometimes I think like, it is warranted to take a player who has certain injuries off their board because of the injury. That's why we have Dezi, because she is like the best person to ask, and help inform us on when we should be wary about certain injuries and when it's not as big a deal. So, Dezi, can you figure out how to share? If not, I can pull it up really quickly as well.
I hope I can share, just because I highlighted a couple of things. That's not it.
I can.
Oh, here we go. I got it.
Okay.
Boom. Can you guys see?
Awesome. Yeah, you might just need to zoom it in, and then we're good. Here, let me do this, actually. There we go.
Perfect. Yeah, so I did a couple of highlights here. It's not going to be highlighted on the one that Steph will put out there. I just highlighted this for the purpose of the podcast today. So Andrew Phillips, as you can see, there was several different injuries: ankle, knee, shoulder injuries. There's a lot of other injuries on here, which I didn't feel like were all that significant. I mean, there's going to be ACL tears. There's going to be, shoulder scopes, knee scopes, ankle sprains, things like that. For the most part, that's what I found. But the ones that I have highlighted here are some that I think are a little bit more significant, or there's just more than one injury that seems a little bit more like something you'd want to evaluate in their process. So if you look at Marcus, he had a fractured and dislocated ankle. So when you have a fracture and a dislocation, it can just cause enough, damage to trigger some early onset arthritic changes. The things I think you think about when you're looking at athletes is, you also have to consider the need. Like, is he going to get arthritis right away? No, but maybe in 8 years, maybe in 10 years, that starts to rear its, head just a little bit. And so if that's not a long-term need, which, how many times does an organization look at a player long-term like that? Like, oh man, we got to have him set and good to go for 10 years. That's probably not how they look at them. But, you do have to consider he's a wide receiver. Will that become a problem as he moves on in his career, right? It's an ankle. So how well was his rehab? Things like that. If you look,
and that was Marcus Rosamie Jack Saint, for those of you that are not see it on the screen.
And that was surgically repaired back in 2020. So it seems like he's done very well, over the course of the last 4 years. So now, again, you add on those 4 years plus however many years in the NFL before you start to maybe see some issues. I'm scrolling on my screen. Is it scrolling on your side?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So Jackson Sermon, the only reason I highlighted this, because you can have a biceps tear and be okay. And I didn't know if it was surgically repaired or they just kind of let it go, but he's a linebacker. And linebackers, you're really grabbing people that are, they've got some force. They're, you're trying to bring down a running back who's running downhill, and you're bringing that arm out to pull him. You really need that jerky sensation of or movement pattern of your biceps to kind of bring a player down. So I do, look at that left bicep tear as like something to maybe look a little bit closer at given his position. James Williams is a DB out of Miami. Surgery to repair a muscle injury. It wasn't specific about which one. Also had a shoulder injury. Those were back, in 21 and 22 respectively. This one was interesting. I think that's the only reason why I highlighted this one. Craig Young, he's a linebacker out of Kansas. He was shot in the hand, leg, and elbow, and he had surgery. He had surgery on his hand, I believe. Yeah. So I don't think this is any kind of long-term issue, but it was just, interesting to talk about. How often do I get to talk about gunshot wounds?
Right.
So, I'm thinking that the repair, there may have been some soft tissue damage. Maybe there was a ligament that had to be repaired or something in his hand. I don't expect it to be a big problem. He's a linebacker. Leg and elbow, maybe just soft tissue wounds that needed to heal. But that was just, interesting to me. Eric All, torn ACL with surgery back in 23. He missed 7 games, but then he also had some back surgery in 22. And so that's a tight end, right? That's a position that we've identified as potentially a position of need at that tight end 2 position. So ACL and back injury for as much blocking as our tight ends do on our team. I don't know. Maybe you look at that. This one, Akeem Dent, I couldn't specifically find the injuries, but I did see a quote that said that he was talented but oft injured safety, will be missing second straight game, 33rd of his career. And that was from Tim Capurso, was the one who quoted that. So I didn't see specifically what those injuries were, but that sounds significant, right? 33 games missed. Storm Duck, lower body, wasn't specific, but he missed 11 games, and he had an upper body injury that resulted in 7 games. This one's interesting. Isaac Guerrero, a running back out of Louisville, a Liz Frank injury, which is a fracture in your foot. I've talked about this before on Eric Crocker's show, and it's a specific type of foot fracture that usually involves multiple bones. It's something that often needs some kind of surgical repair to it. I couldn't identify what the rehab or what was done to fix this fracture, if anything. But that's something to think about. I think if he's young enough, young people heal so well. It's different if you're like 30 getting a Liz Frank fracture, but it is a unique injury. And then he's had a couple of hamstring injuries there, soft tissue, both back-to-back years, 2019 and 2020. This one was one that's often talked about right now. One, because we have seen drafts where he is our 31st pick, Kool-Aid McKinstry, the cornerback out of Alabama. He has a Jones fracture that just seems to not want to heal. And, I've seen where they're planning to fix it. And by planning to fix it, I assume that means surgical repair after pro day, which of course, any day now, we may see reports that he's getting that fixed. So what does that mean for the season ahead for this individual as he looks to be drafted this year? I would expect he'd be ready to go by the season, but I don't know what kind of long-term issues, if any, we can expect from that.
I did just see an update on Kool-Aid McKinstry about an hour ago from Ian Rappaport, and he said that McKinstry had his combine rechecks yesterday, and sources say doctors deemed his recoveries from surgery to be on track and as expected. So I at this point don't even think he's gonna make it to 31. But if he's there, I would still feel good about taking him there.
Yeah, I don't foresee this being something that's going to be problematic. It may hold him back a little bit in terms of like training over the summer, but I don't think it's going to impact the season ahead. This one was interesting. Braden McGregor, the defensive end from Michigan, he had a horrendous knee injury. Some reports said it was a torn MCL, PCL, and meniscus. There's 4 ligaments in our knee. He tore 2 of them. And there's some reports that say he also tore his ACL, which would mean 3. And that's kind of like a knee blowout is kind of what we call that. In 2019 is when this injury happened. So obviously he's been doing just fine if he's ready to be drafted in the NFL this year. But that is a horrendous knee injury. And I don't know how, what we would expect in terms of long-term, or even kind of like it was what I was asked about Javon Kinlaw. Like Javon Kinlaw had multiple knee problems, and he, I think even reports when he was getting drafted showed that he had some early arthritis in his knees. And of course that was going to be like a waxing and waning. And we kind of saw that with him in his earlier career of just not being able to suit up for the whole season and just having these repetitive issues with his knees. And so I don't know if I can peg that on someone like this, but if, there's that much damage to the knee that had to be repaired, you would consider that. And lastly, I think this is the last one. Yep. Isaac Rex, the tight end out of BYU, he had left complex fracture foot with multiple surgeries. So this could be surgically repaired with plates and screws. And by multiple surgeries, much like, was it Jimmy Garoppolo that had to have surgery and then he had, or was it Trey Lance? Look, our quarterbacks had a lot of injuries. I can't remember which one, but they had the surgery to repair it. And then they actually had the hardware removal done, usually because it becomes painful, it's not needed, or there's some backing out of the pins or the screws. But this happened back in 2021. So that'd be something to keep an eye on as well.
Wow. Yeah, this is quite a lot. And I will be adding these updates from Dezi onto the draft sheet in the coming days. As I mentioned before, I'll also be adding the draft grades for players who the 49ers have had reported interest in, or who they have visits with. All that will be you'll start to see that get populated in the draft sheet, so stay tuned to that. Some better updates coming. And so we got some news in 49ers Throwback. Thank you for bringing this to our attention as we're live here. The NFL informed clubs today it has revised the uniform policy to allow teams a third helmet design. This expansion was offered to the teams that were going through the redesign process for the 2024 season and is now open to all clubs for the 2025 season. Interesting. So for 2024, it's just going to be the teams who are already, I guess, redesigning their uniforms. In 2025, we'll probably start to see more teams, have a third helmet. But the 49ers only have the one, so I can't even imagine they would go towards a second or, even a third at this point. But who knows? I mean, there's been a lot of people who have, do the crazy uniform concepts, and I've seen black, I've seen white, I've seen like a red metallic, like the possibilities are endless for the 49ers. But Dezi, what color would you like to see besides gold for the 49ers helmet if you had to choose?
I want to say red, but something tells me white might be interesting because I don't like, that might be kind of throwbacky looking, right? Like not for our club, but maybe like thinking of the old school Indianapolis Colts, the white helmet that they had. I don't know. My gut says red, but exactly. The gold is just such a iconic helmet. Like why go?
Yeah. And the gold helmet goes with all of their alternate uniforms. So there's really like no reason to not stick with the gold. I'd be surprised if the 49ers brought in another color, but again, now that they're opening it up, a third helmet to all these teams, and we're probably going to see more teams have more helmets, then maybe they might feel inclined to bring that on.
49ers, I was just getting ready to say that. I'm like new color. I'd like to see either a glitter or a chrome. Like that would be.
So the only thing with gold chrome that is like blinding, which maybe could be to the 49ers advantage, but like I could see so many issues with a chrome. Like I remember a really long time ago, this is funny, Justin Bieber had a chrome Fisker, and I'm pretty sure like he was told he couldn't drive it or something because it's dangerous. Like the sun shining off of that is like so blinding. It's literally blinding. So I mean, I don't know if that would really fly.
So I obviously don't get my nails done, but I see people who have their nails done. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So not that bold, but there is like a nail color where it like gives you this funky look to it. And it's like the chrome, but it's not like in your face like that. I don't know how to, so I don't know that. I mean, obviously you're not going to put nail color on their helmet, but I think there's a way to like tame it down so that it looks really cool without it being like reflective. Maybe. Yeah. Any painters?
Yeah, I'd have to see how it looks, but as long as it's not a hazard to, anyone who's staring directly at it, then yeah, I'd be open to it. So just for, fun, it'd be nice to see what the 49ers, if they even, consider bringing that in. But Desi, I know you had some helmet related news actually. So
Yes.
this is a good segue into that. What do you have for us?
It's a great segue. So what happened is I got notification that the NFL, along with the NFL Players Association, has utilized biomechanical experts to research helmets that perform best to reduce head impact severity. And not only did they do this and there's a nice, beautiful poster that I'm going to share here in just a second. They also listed it by 3 different playing positions. So they did offensive line, defensive line, and quarterback. So let me bring up what that looks like. Here we go. Boom. So they do this, I believe they do this annually. They kind of do a test to see which helmets have performed better. And this was the first year, though, I think they delineated between the different positions. So here you can see, this is the general helmet testing performance results. The Riddle Axiom 3D was the #1 overall. But you can see, like, this is how close they were in their grade. Some of them were like almost just a complete tie. You get into the light green, and that's not bad, but the yellow you definitely want to avoid. And the red has actually been prohibited. So anything in the red, they've completely just said you're not allowed to wear that helmet in the league.
That was actually one of my questions, because I was like, if they're doing these tests and they see that some just aren't testing well, why wouldn't they just like outlaw those?
Yeah, they did. So if you see this dash here, so anything under that dash is not recommended, but it's definitely prohibited when it's in the red. And then if you go on, and this is for the best results for defensive linemen, and that's the Zenith Orbit Pro. Again, just edged out the next helmet down. It really is a series of selections, so players can still say, well, this is what fits better. This is what I feel more comfortable in. And so they're not, isolated to just using the one type of helmet. And then we go down to the offensive linemen, and it's the Zenith Orbit Pro was their #1. And then quarterbacks ended up being I think it's Vicis, VICIS 02 Matrix ID QB. So when a helmet has the QB in it, it's probably a good helmet. The thing I want to point out for those that are listening, like, this is results specifically for the NFL. This is not recommendations that you then give to your high school players or your college players. They actually put that little, was that in the email itself? I think it was in the email itself. Here it is. The results of this study should not be extrapolated to collegiate, high school, or youth football. So this is specifically utilizing the forces that they deal with in the NFL.
Yeah, and that it is so fascinating. I never even thought about how different helmets may perform better for different position groups. Like, I kind of just thought it was like one size fits all, but every position group kind of has a different way of impact, I guess, like the kind of impact that they would get. So yeah, this is really great research. Look, we say a lot of things about the NFL and their player safety things. Occasionally they will do some really good things like this that give the players, help inform the players on what best helmets to use for their own health, right? So yeah, that's really great by the 49ers, by the NFL to put that out, and hopefully players take that advice and go with the ones in the green all the time.
No matter if it's chromed out or glittered or not.
Exactly. There you go.
This was interesting because if you remember last year in the playoffs, Patrick Mahomes' helmet, right? It got cracked from the sub-zero temperatures. And so I joked around and I was like, I wonder if that was in the tiny print of the packaging of the helmet. But truly, these things are tested, and what we see on the outside is merely just the beauty side of it, if you will. The inside is where all the action is. That's where the padding is, and the specific padding, and how much and how dense. And there's a lot that goes into how you have the appropriate helmet, the fit, even the grid that's on the face mask part. All of that matters. And I love that it was in collaboration with the Players Association. So together, this was something that they both agreed upon and looked at the results of. Yeah. Kudos to the NFL.
Kudos for once. But that's really great work. Thank you, Dezi, for bringing that to our attention and showing us that, as well as the injury notes that you've added to the draft sheet. We'll definitely be adding those in. And hey, this has been a great show. Like I said, we had a lot to go over, and we did it. And it wasn't too wacky. I told Dezi when we first started, I was like, we're just going to wing this. Like, we have our topics, but beyond that, we're winging it. Let's go for it. And I think it went well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, these are things that we've been working on, like I know I've been working on your grid for a couple weeks, and, definitely, I don't think it needed to be it wasn't going to be wacky, because we've already been pedal to the metal on looking at it all. So
we're locked in. We're locked in. All right. Well, if you guys are locked in as well, make sure you like this video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Not just mine, but Dezi's as well. We appreciate you guys. As always, audio listeners, make sure you leave a review and, leave a rating, whatever you like. And for now, have a good rest of your Wednesday. I'll be back tomorrow. Yeah, thank you, 49ers Throwback, pointing that out. I'll be back tomorrow with Mariah, the 2GO show. So make sure you guys tune into that. But for now, have a good rest of your Wednesday, folks.